because do you track macros?
No.
Neither of us track macros. It's working out pretty well.
Say so. Especially for you.
All right, ready or not, welcome to the CBG Radio Podcast, brought to you by Consistency Breeds Growth. I'm Joel Jacobs, and as always, I'm joined by Justin, the WOD nutritionist, and always the lovely Gab, the New Yorker, the Long Island. That's a terrible accent, but whatever that was.
That was so insulting.
I will probably never try that again. That was horrible.
Thank you.
All right. And we've got a really cool episode today. We are going to talk to a CBG client who really, it seems like, had a really successful journey with Coach Anna. And so I'll go ahead and bring her in here. Say hello to Sarah. What's up, Sarah?
Hey, everybody. Good to talk to you.
All right. So you're on Pacific time. So where are you at?
I am in Pasadena, California.
Okay.
So opposite coast.
Gotcha.
Originally from Wisconsin, though. So those are my roots.
I can hear that Wisconsin twang.
Most people can, yeah.
Home of the cheeseheads. Are you a cheesehead?
Dyed in the wool.
There you go. So Gab, since your Gab's a baseball, she doesn't really follow football. But I will tell you, Gab, that your loyalty to your Mets, Green Bay Packer fans have that same level of loyalty that you have to your Mets. So
interesting.
Okay, so you can have some at least respect for Sarah, and she's in California with all of her Green Bay stuff. So
yeah, do they suck also?
No, they've won 13 titles.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
She's
4
got
Super
that
Bowls,
already.
9 world champions.
Damn. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Typically, when people are like, "Oh, it's like being a Met fan," I'm like, "Oh, so pain and misery, right? That's what it is." But I understand.
That's my teams, the Cincinnati Reds and the Bengals. That's me.
Ooh,
I'm living in pain and misery constantly.
I'm sorry.
Got it.
Yeah,
got it.
I know. Thanks. But I actually was a Green Bay fan kind of growing up because I really liked Brett Favre. Yeah. In the 90s. So I was a 90s kid. So
that's right. Yeah, I've been fortunate to only know 3 starting quarterbacks in my entire life. So not many football fans can say that. I think the Packers have been exceptionally lucky in my lifetime. But before that, my dad always talks about, you don't know what it was like.
You don't know the difficult years.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I was a little confused. Okay, so you said you're from California. Let me bring this in real quick. Because when I was kind of stalking a little bit, trying to figure out, did I follow the wrong Sarah Luthi?
Oh, yeah. It's an EY at the end. Yeah, that's not me.
Oh my goodness.
I was kind of wondering. I thought that because you have to request, and I never saw the request come in from you, and then I forgot about it.
Goodness.
I was gonna say, I was told that we had an Australian coming on, so
that's
I was
really funny.
Oh my goodness. All right. I'm cutting this out. No, I'm not going to cut it out. That's too funny. But yeah, I've been telling Candace, I'm like, I think she's from Australia, but she told me she's in Pacific time. Like, what? I don't know what's going on. So, all right. Well, and that was the other thing too, is there was like no fitness stuff on there or like anything. And I was just like, all right, well, I guess we can talk about Australia, but I can't even talk about that now. So,
all
right, that's good stuff. But I do have some. So Coach Anna couldn't be with us today. She had some scheduling conflicts that came up kind of last minute. But I did talk to her a little bit about like what your initial goals were and things like that. So she said that basically one of the first things that you said is you want to fit into the old shorts from last summer.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, that's a pretty simple way to put it. So what was how did that go? Do you fit in the shorts again?
I fit in the shorts. I think she sent the photo. They fit.
Yeah,
they're a little tight still, but I think that's more related to a squat cycle that we did at our gym this summer, which I'll totally take, right? Like
getting
the good stuff.
Booty gains, right?
Exactly.
So is it let's see. She sent me some of the let's see. Okay, window. Yeah, there we go. Is it those shorts?
It's those shorts.
There you go.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's not just the shorts either. Everything fits better. So that's been really nice.
Right. Yeah. But I loved how it was like specific to like those specific shorts, right? Like I want to fit in those shorts better.
Yes. We all have that though. Like, I mean, I think if I asked my mom, she'd be like, yeah, I still have these pants from when I was 14. It would be nice, you know, like like we just all have that one article of clothing I feel like we can't get rid of because we're like, no, it's going to fit again.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit about some of the other goals that you had, besides just the shorts, right? That was like one tidbit of it, but there were other things that were involved in it. So tell us some more about what your goals were coming into CBG.
Definitely. Going into it, I felt like I knew the right things to do and was doing them, but nothing was working. And I was really frustrated and I didn't really know what to do next. And I felt like I normally eat pretty well and work out hard and just didn't understand why it wasn't happening. And I think at the end of the day, I really just needed that accountability and someone to be kind of looking over my shoulder a little bit and keeping me on the straight and narrow. The other thing was, and I don't know if Anna mentioned this, but when I signed up for CBG, let me think about this for a minute, about 4 months post finishing up 6 rounds of chemotherapy. And as anyone who has gone through it knows, it's just a wild experience in terms of the effect that it has on your body. So in November of last year, I was diagnosed with stage 1 ovarian cancer, coming out of a surgery to remove my right ovary, which was life-changing to say the least. And then fortunately, it was an early stage, which was lucky, but they do chemotherapy following that. And my doctor actually warned me. He goes, "You'll probably gain weight." It's like, what?
Like while you're doing the chemo? Right,
because they give you steroids to help your body take the treatment. And then, you're not moving as much, but all things considered, I did CrossFit the entire time. I worked the entire time. And to be honest, life was pretty normal. But at the end of it, I was just feeling like, just not like me. The effect, it affects your hair and your eyelashes and your eyebrows, and then you can't work out as much. And so I just was feeling not myself. And knew part of the thing with the shorts was like, this isn't my fault that these don't fit. Like, I didn't fall off the wagon. I didn't stop working out. I didn't go on a bender with donuts or whatever. It just was a result of the time that I was at in my life, and that's okay. But I wanted to really like move forward. And it was the last piece for me of feeling like I was back. Like, I'm back to the old me. This is in my rearview mirror and can really like move forward. And so that was really the underlying impetus. It wasn't necessarily about like looks or the shorts. It was about like, I want to be where I was before. So.
No, that's cool. So the shorts really were like symbolic.
They were, yes. Yeah.
That's cool.
100%.
So do you still have the shorts? Like, I feel like they should be like
I do
framed or something,
Yeah, maybe.
like, because they symbolize, being back or before the diagnosis and all that stuff. And now it's kind of like a symbol of victory, kind of,
Yes, 100%. That's how it feels.
That's cool. So then what was there anything that was challenging at first when you first kind of started in the CBG process?
I think the biggest challenge was just recognizing that I had to make some changes if I wanted to get where I wanted to be. So before, when I was at maintenance, I love to cook and bake. So you can afford like, oh, like I'll bake this thing and it's not a problem and all those things. And I think just changing my mindset a little bit to be like, it's not going to be like this forever, but you need to tighten things up a little bit if you want to get the results that you want and stay committed. And I think the second thing related to that is that my husband and I love to travel. And we do a lot of weekend trips to places. After I started CBG, we had just gotten back from a long Europe trip. And I love the food that goes along with the traveling. And so that was probably the hardest sacrifice for me. Was we went to Portland, I think 3 weeks after I started. And if you've ever been to Portland, it's an amazing food city. There's so many things where it's like, ooh, I want to try that. I want to try that. And I was like, no, I need to like find something that I can stay on the plan. I need to be able to give Anna these nice portions. And she was super encouraging. She looked at menus with me. But I think that was the hardest challenge, was just like, especially when we were traveling, just being like, you know, it's okay. You're not missing out. Like, just do your best to stick to the portions, and like, you'll get there.
Do you feel like that changed sort of your mindset around how you see food now? I think sometimes a lot of people view food as an activity where they're like, well, what am I supposed to do if I'm not eating all of the, you know, whatever? Do you feel like now you look at food as something other than like a perk of being on a trip? You know what I mean? Like, has it changed your viewpoint?
A little bit. I think I've realized that I can still have a good time and still experience the thing. It just doesn't have to be all of the things.
Yeah.
You know, choose the one thing that you're gonna, I don't want to use the word splurge, but choose the one thing that you're gonna try. And I like having that sort of 1 to 2 times a week. That also changed for me, is to think more carefully about where I wanted to use that card.
Yeah.
Instead of, because otherwise you just kind of get out of control a little bit, where you're like, oh, it'll be just this one, and then something else comes up and you say, oh, well, just this one too, and all of a sudden a few days later you're totally off track.
Yeah. So it's like, what, like making it worth it? Like, is this going to be, is this worth using my one card on?
Yes.
So how crucial, like, was Anna's support while you were traveling, like, was that crucial in being able to make it through that time?
It meant a lot to me when I would come out of a weekend and she would review the pictures and she'd be like, you did so good. I'm like, okay, I was trying so hard. So I really needed that like validation. And like I said before, that accountability of knowing that she was going to see the pictures. That really kept me in line. And that was really, I think, what I needed to right the ship.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because that extra layer of accountability is huge, I think, because it's one thing, you know, for Gab, if she had just made me the blueprint and said, you know, here you go, this is how you do it, you know, and maybe taught me some things. But it's a whole nother level of, you know, when you have that accountability and you have, you know, okay, well, let's see it. And you're like, oh man, I got to show it to you.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference for sure.
Well, and I knew I was at a point where I should take a step back. I think there's probably some people that will look at the pictures and be like, well, I think you looked fine before. And to be fair, nobody in my life was like, oh, you look like you need to lose weight or whatever. Pretty much nobody noticed. Like when they found out that I was trying to do it, they were like, I think you look great. Like, I can't tell at all. And they're trying to be nice. And that's so sweet. So people will look at the pictures and maybe not see that big of a difference. But I think for me, I knew because of that, I was pretty close. And the closer that you get, the more precise you have to be, and the less wiggle room you have. And so having that accountability of somebody really watching everything was, I think, just what I needed to like get me that last bit.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Justin.
Real results, you know, like, like these are like, you're a real person. You know, I feel like so many transformations online, people are like, oh, wow, look at the, you know, crazy. And it's like, no, this is like real. Like, this is what a real transformation and success story looks like. Right. And it's very visible, right? Like in your midsection, in your face, in your arms, right?
The arms. I was looking at the guns, you know, you can see a little curve there in the guns.
Yeah. And you could see like the way the shorts are fitting, especially over like the side, like your sides, like that's where there's a lot of visible change on your end. So this is, you can definitely tell for sure that there's a big change, you know?
Thanks.
Yeah. And
I think so too.
Yeah. And I think what's always cool, what I love about, you know, doing these client spotlights is, you know, like you said, people maybe looked at you, you know, physically and we're like, I don't get it. Like, why would you, why would you sign up with a nutrition coach? And, why would you do all this? But when you dig deeper into it, your goals were so much more than just your aesthetics.
Yeah.
And we've heard that time and time again with everyone that we've done so far, that that it's not just about, how you look or how much you weigh. Like you had like other reasons why, and it really kind of seems like it was connected to prior to your diagnosis. So
yes,
I love those caveats of and being able to tell that part of the story, so that people, when you're listening to this, you can connect to something other than just like, well, I don't need a nutritionist because maybe my shorts are just a little tight, whatever, that's fine. Well, maybe there's another reason why, a deeper reason why you have something. So I really think that's really cool.
Yeah, there's something out there that it's a saying or an analogy to, if you strip down to basically just your underwear, and you did a spin like all the way around, and then you asked ask everyone, like 100 people in a crowd, what's your biggest insecurity? There would be 100 different answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only person that knows where you feel more insecure and where you want to build more confidence and like what is you, right? So like there's like that component of it as well, with the combination of your story, right? And like this comeback that you had for yourself, like getting back to where you were in both an emotional, physical, health based kind of state,
Yeah. I think the other thing that really surprised me, I knew when we got to the cut, I had this thing in my mind, like, okay, this is going to be hard. My husband is also a high school wrestling coach, so he's working with kids on cuts and that stuff all the time. And it's not fun, right? And so I kind of prepared myself, maybe my performance will be a little bit less in the gym. That's okay. That's what happens when you cut. And it was the opposite. I was pleasantly surprised at how, there were things that were hard about it, but it was actually easier than I thought. And I didn't have that feeling of sluggishness in the gym that I was anticipating having. And even when I did, again, the reason that I knew I needed the coach, Anna gave me some great adjustments. Like, I think there was one point where I said to her, like, hey, I'm feeling a little hungry before I even get to the gym. And I know I can have this piece of fruit after. And I'm like obsessed with that piece of fruit. And she was like, okay, let's add this intra supplement carb thing or whatever. And that did it. That was exactly what I needed. And so just being able to make those little adjustments and have someone with you when you're like, I don't know what to do. And if you don't have that person, the temptation otherwise would be to just kind of be like, oh, well, it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So that was great too.
Yeah, you listen to your body really well, which is something that I'll say, like working with a coach, you have that resource there, but also like people that track macros don't do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, just hit the numbers.
Yeah.
That's it. They're like, they lose all like connection with their body in terms of like what they need. And, your body is changing even throughout a given month with like your hunger levels and all those sort of things. You can't auto regulate anything when it's like your 3 numbers no matter what. Right.
Yeah.
So that flexibility like allowed for like, oh, we need to add a little bit more here. Like this is actually going to help your workout.
Yes. And I think on the macros note, I had a friend from the gym who had also worked with CBG. And when she told me that there was no macros, I was immediately interested. I've done it before. I can see why it works for some people. I understand how like, hopefully eventually you wouldn't need macros, but it almost seemed to me like this program gets you to that point so much faster. And I knew with our lifestyle, the struggle I had had with macros in the past was if you're out to eat somewhere, you don't have that scale and you can kind of guess, but it was such a good happy medium of being able to be more precise without the exactness of the scale. And for me, that exactness does not get me into a healthy place mentally. I'm already like a very numbers oriented person and sort of have some type A tendencies. So the numbers perfection thing is not sustainable for me whatsoever. So this was such a good way to be able to keep that consistency and keep yourself from just being like, well, I can't measure, so I guess I can eat whatever I want.
YOLO.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the working out. I was gonna ask you about that. Did you have any PRs during that time?
Oh my goodness. We did a couple tests throughout the months, and it was like I was PRing anything I touched.
That's awesome.
And
That's
part
great.
of that was I was thinking back, like, so in the like 6 months before I had that tumor removed, there were obviously other things going on with my body, and I was feeling more tired. And you can always like look back and put all the pieces together, but in the moment you don't necessarily connect the dots. So this really was, and then it was like you have the tumor removed, but then you go into chemo and you just slowly get brought down. It's like someone's slowly putting bricks in your backpack, and you don't really realize until 3 months after what it used to feel like. So that was really fun. We did a squat cycle as I was going through the program. I PR'd my back squat on the cycle by 15 pounds and lifetime by 5 pounds. I PR'd my bench press, which we weren't working on at all. PR'd my squat clean by like 15 pounds coming out of the squat cycle.
Whoa,
So yeah, big shout out to the coaches at CrossFit Crown City in Pasadena, because super awesome programming and just a good time all around. So yeah, that was really fun. I was also working on my gymnastics. Anna and I would joke, because she's like so great at gymnastics, that like if I could borrow anything from Anna, it would be the gymnastics, because gymnastics is totally my struggle. So I was working on a toes to bar program the entire time too, and they're still not great, but they've gotten a lot better.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do your hands holding up for the toes to bar work?
Oh my gosh,
Taking care of them.
Yes, I've always used grips, and then I have the callus shaver, which I think you need both. And I just got these new really sticky grips that you don't use chalk with.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the brand. I think Sky Hill has some similar ones. Yeah. Yeah, it's like those. They're great. Stick to the bar really well. Yeah.
I feel like Spider-Man when I use them.
Yes, totally.
Nice. Awesome. Well, great stuff. Congratulations on all of your progress. Congratulations on being victorious over ovarian cancer.
Thank you.
Just all of it, and congratulations on getting back in those shorts.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on. It was an honor.
Yeah,
so nice to meet you.
I have one more question.
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I think a lot of people, when it comes to nutrition coaching, they wait too long, right? And then they have so many things that are like fading into the distance in terms of goals that they want to reach. You can make the same analogy when it comes to women's health and your diagnosis, right? We have about 700 to 800 women in our program. I would say we have 700 to 800 people in our program right now, and about 90% of those are women. And so if you don't mind, or whatever you're willing to share, like what do you encourage women to do for not the nutrition side? We of course know the importance of like starting that early and building healthy habits and all that stuff, right? Your story is a testimony to that. But on the side of your diagnosis, like catching that at stage 1, which is like very remarkable, right? Starting early. What are the things and signs that you've seen, and then what do you encourage women to do so that if they do have signs of something, what do women need to do to be preventative when it comes to your like ovarian cancer or any sort of cancer related to that?
Yes, thank you for this question. I'd love to answer that. In my case, I was lucky because it came up in another scan that I had for another reason, and it was sort of an incidental finding. So that was one of the reasons it was caught so early. And I was also very fortunate that I have really good doctors who kind of took action immediately. It was like, oh, this looks funky to me. We need to check this out. And in terms of timing, it was about 6 weeks from when I found out about it to when I had it removed. And I know from other survivors that I've talked to that isn't a typical story, that people tend to have a lot of problems, especially when you're a young, healthy person like I am, doctors don't immediately go to cancer. And most of the time it's not. So it's a reasonable response. Mm-hmm. But what I always say is, you know your body, you know your cycle, you know what's normal for you. And any consistent diversion from that, you should be calling and telling your doctor, this isn't right. I need you to look into this. Mm-hmm. So I've talked to other survivors where, you know, they knew something wasn't right and their doctor wasn't listening to them. I'm fortunate that wasn't the case, but you know, it never hurts. It's never good to bury your head in the sand. So if something isn't right, call and be persistent. The scans that they can do don't cost that much money. So there's really no reason, if there's concern, to avoid it. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of women, healthy women, they get shooed away, right? Because they're like, oh, you're young, which is like a natural response, right? Nobody wants to believe that anyway. They're like, oh, they're shooing away, great, everything must be fine. Mm-hmm. But if you feel like something's not right, like you have to advocate for yourself. And women need to continue to do that because, you know, if you get an irregular pap smear and you're getting those done regularly, right, to test for cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, some of those things. And, you know, doing those regular checkups with your doctor and making sure they understand the importance of your family history and all of that stuff is just like really important.
Yes.
So.
Well, and especially with ovarian, there's not any screening and the symptoms can mimic a lot of other things. So it isn't the thing that they're jumping to. And in fact, my OB told me, he was like, I don't want you to worry. Women your age don't get ovarian cancer. And statistically, he is not wrong. It is incredibly rare. So I don't want women to be overly concerned or, you know, kind of over index on my experience, but you do want to be keyed into your health and your cycle and be talking with your doctor if there's things that aren't right and that are repeatedly not right. One of the things my oncologist kind of left with me when I transitioned out of chemo was like, this is actually a harder transition in many ways because we've been doing something to treat this. And there's a certain amount of solace that you can get in doing something. And then you have to switch to, oh my gosh, like what now? I'm only seeing you every 3 months. And what he told me was like, there are a lot of things that happen in your body on any given day, and we might never know what they are. He's like, you have a stomach ache one day, it's probably fine. But I want you to tell me if you have things that you can't explain and that don't go away. And that was such a good barometer for me as I was making that transition, because there's this tendency to be like, oh my gosh, I had this pain in my side. Like, what could it be? And then it goes away and you're like, okay, it's probably fine. But I think that's a good barometer for anyone, especially any young, healthy person. Things that you can't explain and things that don't go away. Just ask your doctor.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good stuff. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Great stuff. Yeah. And great question bringing that in, Justin. That was good stuff there. So again, thank you, Sarah. That's going to be it for this episode. You know, if you connected with Sarah's story and you want help achieving your goals, whatever they might be, whether it's fitness related, if you want to get those PRs or body composition, which apparently we've had several examples of, you can do both. So, but whatever those goals are, there will be a link in the description that you can book a call and see if CBG can help you out. And don't be shy in the comments. Give Sarah, you know, a fist bump or something. Show her some love in there. And then, of course, do all the other stuff, like, subscribe, share this story with your spouse if you're trying to convince them to quit tracking macros, you know, whatever that may be. But stay consistent. Congratulations, Sarah. And Sarah, I encourage you, stay consistent as well. And we'll see you all next time. So peace out.